because we published, beloved. Hello, how are you?
I am so good. Glad to be talking to you, my love.
I feel like this is so long overdue because I've definitely been standing you, and your wife and your child. I'm definitely a family stanner. I don't stand just one person. I want to know the whole energy. I know about Mama and Mama
Yes.
out here marketing. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it. But for now, I just want to say congratulations. And we published, beloved. You did it.
We
You did it.
published.
You did it. You
Whew.
and that's what this whole podcast is about. I've been telling everyone like this is a hard thing to do. This is not an easy. And your book is deeply researched. Like this takes a lot of work and deep analysis. So I'm excited to talk to you today about the process, how you got here, and just to start off, like, how long did it take you to write Rooted? How long did to get here? This is a
Thank
lot.
you for honoring how much work goes into it because it is very
Yeah,
intense. I mean, I think any nonfiction, any book really, because even for fiction, you're having to do the research for the references you're gonna make. But
that's right.
yes, okay. So I started the research that shaped this book in 2019. And it was
Mm,
published in 2024.
mm,
I think for some people that is a short time. For me, a Gemini, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, 5 years of my life on one project." Like, I can't even fathom, being so tunnel visioned in on any
yeah,
one thing. But it was also the most rewarding because it's such a story of family and ancestry and
yeah.
honoring who I come from,
Mhm.
farmers and sharecroppers and
Yes.
agricultural laborers, and not running from that story. And so, a lot of the research was really intimate and talking to my elders and
Yeah,
just spending time with folks who are not are not heralded as experts,
yeah,
by formal academic spaces, but who I wanted
absolutely.
to be my first and primary resources. So, yes, 5 years of doing that and digging into archives and then trying to
Yeah.
corroborate that with what white people have in their records, wanting to
Mhm.
center us and our voices first and foremost.
Mm, I love that. And honestly, like a lot of people, I think, say that that's what they're doing, and then when you read the work, it's not actually doing that. I love your book in particular because from the cover to the back to the end, this is about Black folks and land. And I think for me, being someone from California who on the book tour was the first time I really got down to the South. It was the time I really spent time there because I don't really have a lot of family that I know well there, and reading this book, I'm like, "Oh, you love Southern Black people, like, and you know them, and they're in your family, and they're in your blood," and I think that's been really beautiful for me, as someone who doesn't have this experience. So what has it been like on the journey, because I imagine you have to combat folks who do not think that this is an important story to tell or that these folks, have wisdom and knowledge to offer us. So what has that been like?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel really grateful that I had a Black woman editor who
Mm,
got it and who was backed by a Black imprint. So even though it is within Penguin Random House, that One World was really willing to stand on business with that because I
mm,
knew I was like, I cannot work with any publisher that's not going to let me say reparations.
mm,
Can't work with any publisher that's not going to let me tell a story, and the only proof of that story is oral history because a lot
right.
of our stories are like that.
That's right.
And I kind of I was able to write that in, and she really affirmed me in that, where I would hear a story, I would try my best to find written records that could confirm it, and if
Yeah.
I couldn't, I would just say that, but it didn't mean that
Yeah.
I was gonna omit the story. And that was all really important to me,
Mm,
because, yeah, I think there's a lot of times where, um, our elders are telling their stories, or we are telling stories that were passed down to
yeah.
us from our elders, and it's sort of like we're met with hesitation and
Yeah. They think it's woo woo. They think it's woo woo.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
or just like a, "Wow, that just sounds too crazy to be true,"
And
and it's like,
so, yeah.
everything that has happened to Black people sounds too crazy to be true, and it is true,
And it's true.
and so I just was like, "I don't wanna be another person who is qualifying and asterisking what we
Yeah.
say." A lot of the
Yeah.
story that I got, my foundation were, like, family reunion books that
Mm-hmm.
somebody in my family printed at Kinko's or Staples on their own
Yeah.
accord, right? Like,
Yeah.
no editor doing that, but, like, but it's true.
Yeah.
inscriptions in some Bible, stacks of papers in
Yeah.
the office, and scribbles and things of that nature, and, it was important for me to honor that as valid because
Mm.
formal records, that
Mhm.
white folks keep, are often riddled with lies
That's
and
right.
myths and justifications for their violence, and so if I'm going off of that, I'm never gonna be able to tell a Black story,
That's
and so
right.
that was just something that me and my editor were locked in on from the very beginning,
Yeah.
and I knew that I'd run into some trouble potentially if it came time for, like, the book to be a part of a syllabus or to be cited by someone else, but I knew also that that would be nice. I would love for the book to be used in that
Yeah.
way, but that's not my primary audience, and more than anything, I wanted us to be seen. I wanted an older Black person to pick up this book and be like,
That's right.
"Okay, she did it justice. That's what
Yes.
I remember. That's what my father told me. That's what my great-grandmother told me."
Yeah.
And that was, like, I had to keep that at the top, even though, the white supremacy will still seep
Absolutely.
in and make you go, Should I?" And it was just
Am
like,
I
"Wait,
allowed?
wait."
Yes. Yes.
Exactly. Am I allowed? Do I have permission to
Yes.
do that? And just being
Yeah.
like, "Girl, you're not attached to no institution.
That's right.
There is no one cracking a whip at your back." Like, do what
Yeah.
you have to and want to do and
Yeah.
let the chips fall where they may.
I listen, I think that it's so important, and I noticed that as I was reading through the books, I was like, "Oh, oh, yeah, this is a little" like, my favorite chapter, I will say, is chapter 8, "White Lashing Against Black Wealth," because it's just so honest. We have this era of, post-racial, whatever, colorblind racism, whatever, where there's a fear of actually naming the harms that, originate out of this deep, resentment against Black
Yeah.
folk for wanting to survive, but also wanting to thrive.
Yeah.
And, the fear of calling something a pogrom or referring to something as what it is, which is
Mhm.
targeted racial violence and mob violence,
Mhm.
is something that keeps us from telling true stories, but you do not shy away from that in this book.
I just appreciate you for saying that because
Yeah,
I just was like, I hope that this translates the way that I wanted to. And that was important for me to say because I started the book research in 2019 when my grandfather
yeah,
died. And so it was like a very
yeah,
intimate, personal thing that I was going through in my grief. But
yeah,
then 2 years later was the centennial anniversary of Tulsa. And so I'm sitting there with that, but then I'm also sitting there with like, the ways that white people allow this story to be told is as
mhm.
if this was one really bad thing that happened.
Yes.
And even still, they'll frame it as a race riot instead of
Oh,
a
sure. Oh,
and
sure.
so it's important to me to tell, like, "Wait, but Tulsa happened 23 years after Wilmington."
That's right.
So there had been 2 decades of violence in between Wilmington, North Carolina, which chapter 8 focuses on,
That's
and then
right.
the Tulsa massacre, so that by the time you get to Tulsa massacre, that is a refined,
That's
perfected
right.
strategy
The
that they
cultural
are
yes.
doing.
That's
Yes. And so
that's
that was
right.
important for me to say is, like, by the time that Black people are angry and grieving over Tulsa, they're
Yes.
really grieving over decades of, "Man, I thought
That's right.
it's still going." We had that
That's
Red
right.
Summer, we had Atlanta, we had all of these, white lashings and massacres
Right.
and being bombed out of communities that we built from the ground
From
up
our yes.
from our bare hands, and that was just important for me to say because even beyond the statistics, it's also just thinking of, like, how traumatizing it is
Absolutely.
to be a survivor of that, whether you are a direct survivor or someone who had to watch from a distance as a Black
Yes.
person and know there's nowhere safe. It
That's
can
right.
happen on the East Coast, it can happen in the Southwest, it can
It
happen on the
happened in
West Coast,
North.
it can happen
That's
North,
right.
South, and
That's right.
anywhere.
That's right.
Nowhere is really safe, and so in the midst of this great migration, like, people it's like, I'm running from something, and I don't even know where I'm running to,
That's right.
'cause everywhere is
That's
just red.
right. That's right. Listen, I will admit I'm biased because I am a Black politics, Black feminist historian, that's my place. But I just think that books like this are just so important, and it's so important that they do end up at these kind of, big publishers. And so I wanna also hear about your process in terms of
Yeah.
navigating the publishing process. You already said that you worked with, Black folk who got it. Was it like, navigating the kind of red tape that goes into working with a large publisher?
Yeah.
Mhm.
This is a really good point, and a good question because I do think it's what keeps a lot of Black folks from going the traditional publishing route, and sometimes it feels like indie might be the only way to have that full control of your
That's right.
story.
Yeah.
I just feel like I had folks on the other side who were like, "I'm gonna make sure this lands in safe hands." And so again, really have to shout out Nicole Counts, my editor, and my
Mhm,
publishers at One World because I knew when I first started talking to them, like,
mhm,
"Oh, they publish stories like this." You know,
mhm,
they had published 1619 Project,
mhm,
all
mhm,
of Ta-Nehisi Coates' work, and again,
mhm,
these are bigger writers, so I'm just
mhm,
like, "Man, I don't know
mhm,
what my experience is gonna be because I ain't Ta-Nehisi Coates, I ain't Nicole Hannah Jones, I'm not that, but I know that they don't shy away from saying things with their full chest, and so I was
yeah,
really excited to land with them, um,
yeah,
and I felt like they were a buffer between me and maybe some of the people at the parent
yeah,
company
yeah,
that
yeah,
may have been like, are we sure we
like,
wanna
"Ooh,
say that?"
girl."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, I just felt really grateful that, and also what's interesting, I will say as a point of allyship, my literary agent is not Black. She is a Latina
Mhm,
woman, who I felt like I was nervous, like, is she gonna be able to pitch this and
yeah,
know where it needs to go and
yeah,
make sure it gets to the right place? And
yeah,
we just had really deep conversations, and she understood that the integrity of the project was as important, if not more important, than whatever deal I was gonna get from it. Um,
yeah,
and then, I mean, of course, I did want a good advance because that's also what goes into the research and the
of
product, but
course.
more than anything, it was like, I need this to be in the right hands, and she got
Yeah,
that in a really deep way.
yeah,
So when she told me, she was like, "Nicole is, like, the perfect person for this," and I was like,
yeah,
"Okay, let me see what Nicole talking about."
yeah,
And seeing other works that she had edited, I was just like, "Oh my gosh," like, I'm just
incredible.
so grateful because I hadn't, been aware of Nicole Counts before, and I was
Mm,
just so grateful that I had a literary agent who, even if it wasn't her community or her story, she knew the sensitivity in the story,
yeah,
made sure, "Let's only go to Black editors. Let's only
yes,
go to Black editors who know what to do with this story."
yeah,
And so that is something that I feel really grateful for. I just felt like very, hedge of protection, hands around,
yes.
um,
That.
which I'm really grateful for. And then I think when it came to the marketing, by that point, the book is done, but it's still like, are they gonna market this
Uh-huh, mhm,
the
mhm.
way I want it
Well,
to
and
be
they did
marketed?
shout
And so,
this book is everywhere. I have seen this book in every window. So
I
it's
appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for saying that, 'cause there's so many, I think, especially for those who are listening and thinking about the process, like, there's
yeah.
so many what ifs that you have. Um, should I go with the in-house publicist? Should I pay for a publicist
Mhm,
externally? You know, should I be aspiring to certain lists? Should
mhm,
I be
mhm.
pushing that out of my mind completely? Like, what is
Yeah,
success?
yeah,
And, I've just had so many people, including you, just speak life into the fact that, um certain institutions I didn't think were gonna get this
yeah,
book, and it wasn't for them, and so judging the success of the book by whether New York Times says it's good is, like, not
mhm.
as important as making sure that it gets into Black media
That's
or
right.
that, The Guardian is like,
That's
I
right.
had to reset my expectations,
That's
but
right.
it did still make it into spaces.
It sure did.
Perry was talking about it on the New Yorker, and I was like, "What?
Yes.
That is crying in the parking lot." So, I did feel that I was protected by it, but I
Yeah,
do warn that it's who you choose for your publisher
that's
matters
right.
so much, and so for those who are going that traditional route, do not let money be the only thing that speaks to you.
Mm,
I think that's both a lesson for the topic of the book, but also the process of creating a book,
absolutely.
was just that if the only thing I thought about was trying to get the largest advance
Yeah.
possible, this would have been a very different book. It probably
Mm,
would have been diluted in very different ways, and
mm,
it was very important that I have deep conversations with my agent um, about what I wanted the impact to be beyond sales,
yeah.
because you can sell bullshit. A lot of people sell bullshit, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want my community to be like, "What is
Like,
this
"Girl, what is
dude
this? What?"
somewhere making us look crazy."
Yeah.
So, you
So
have
I
to
I
really.
think you said a lot of like, there's a lot of nuggets in here, and I wanna pull one thread because you mentioned your agent and your publisher, and so, can you tell me the process of how you got to your agent? Was it something where you had the book and you had the idea and you, pitched a few agents and you selected this agent out of a group? Is it something where your book and did they put that into auction, or did they go straight to this person? Like, what did that process look like?
Yeah, so for me, it was a very backwards process. I did not have the book idea at all when
Mm,
I started working with my agent,
yeah.
because I started working with my agent as a ghostwriter. And so
Wow.
for those who are not familiar with that term, it is kind of it is what it sounds like, where you are writing books, with and for other people under their names.
Wow.
I was earlier in my writing career, I'd been writing articles and op-eds, but I had not had any interface with publishing. And, I was connected to this literary agent because someone was looking for a ghostwriter and I needed, to be represented to go up for that opportunity.
Yeah.
And so we worked together on a few ghostwriting projects first before she said, "Have you ever considered doing something under your own name?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Well," at the time, I'd been doing most of my organizing work as, like, an activist had been around the criminal legal system and mass incarceration, and I'm a big believer in not reinventing the wheel, and I just
Absolutely.
felt like everything that needed to be said about the criminal justice system had been written, and it was just like, read The New Jim Crow, read,
Absolutely.
anything by Angela Davis, read this, read that, read that. There are people who that or, like, memoirs by people for whom that is their lived
Absolutely.
experience, but I was like, "I don't think I need to write that, and I don't know what I would write about." And
Yeah.
then this story started to reveal itself to me as sort of like a, "Well, how why haven't you thought about
Mm.
your family's land story as something that you're
Mm.
writing a book about?" And when my
Mm.
grandfather had passed away, he said on his deathbed, like, "Don't sell the family land." And so then it was just like, "Okay, this feels like something I want to spend real time on."
Yeah.
By that point, I had been working with my literary agent for, 2 or 3 years by the
Wow.
time that I came to her and was like, "I actually think that I have, a book that I wanna write." Now this is 2021. And so I had, by that point, seen and written book proposals as a ghostwriter before. So
Mm.
she's like, "Alright, put a draft book proposal together for me, let's start to take it around." Um, and that's kind of how that came to be. So we had
Wow.
been working together for different work, and
Yeah.
then, she had come to me and basically said that there were 2, Black editors at Black imprints who were interested in the book. And
Incredible.
we talked to them both, and I was really grateful, like, "Okay, great, yes," like, again, I want this to be held in the right way, and they
Yeah.
were both amazing, but I did feel like Nicole she had been saying, "I've been waiting for a Black land story." There are people who are writing around it, but not, like, directly about it, and, like, I would love to do this with you, and I felt her passion for it. I also felt her care for it because
Mm.
talking about Black land is inherently to talk about Native land, and I
Yes.
wanted someone who understood that, and
Yes.
understood that it didn't take anything away from the story that I was trying to tell to honor Indigenous
That's
Americans and to make
right.
sure I held that with care, because I didn't wanna write a book that led to more infighting and
That's
division,
right.
and I was like, "Okay."
Reproduction of all the harms. That's right.
Exactly, so
Yeah.
I just felt that she got all of the tensions that I
Mm.
was trying to hold and was going to push me to make this the best book possible, and truly, I think it would have been a very different book without her. So that's how it ended up with her, and, it ended up with Nicole at a preempt,
Really?
yes, so for
That's
those who are unfamiliar, it's like I was talking to multiple people, but instead of it going to auction, it's like put in an early bid,
she was
and we
like,
just
"Never
accepted that
mind."
before. Yeah, exactly.
I
And we
love
accepted
that.
it there, yeah.
I love that. Oh my gosh. I love these stories. One of the things that's really dope about doing this podcast is I find that so many of us come to this process so differently. Like the ways that we meet our editors, the ways that we find our agents, and it always seems so like ordained. Like this was how it was supposed to go, you know? And so it's been really exciting because, I think a lot of people think it has to be a traditional process. So it's
Yeah,
like I have the book idea and I get the proposal together and I go and shop it out. But I think the fact of the matter is that because of the type of writing that we're doing, we also have to innovate and strategize around what that process looks like for us.
yeah.
And that happens in the marketing process too. So we
Yes.
want to hear about your book tour because I feel like you had some really incredible opportunities and you showed up in some really dope spaces. So I would love for you to share how you got that opportunity because it's so unfortunately rare when we write books about ourselves that people invite us into those mainstream spaces.
Yeah, that is 100% valid. It is really hard to get that, and also some of it is just not even knowing how much your publisher will support you with. I
Yes.
talked to a lot of debut authors who explained that they needed to self-fund it. They were paying to fly themselves out to places, and if they were gonna fly themselves out to where they were staying, some people even were, like, fully organizing their book tours on their
Yeah.
own. So even beyond the funding it, like, reaching out to bookstores. I will
Yeah.
say one of the most important things was we partnered with mostly Black-owned bookstores.
That's right.
And I think sometimes in our desire to be mainstream. We chase Barnes and Noble and we chase, the big white bookstores in
That's
each
right.
city. And when I went to Tulsa, Black woman-owned bookstore.
Yes.
Was in Houston, Black woman-owned bookstore.
Right. Yeah.
When I was like in most of the cities that I went to, Source Booksellers in Chicago,
I
like
love Source,
I
okay?
love Source. I was collaborating with mostly Black-owned bookstores, and I just feel like it's such a nod to the fact that we look out for each other.
That's
And so
right.
in the same way that I wanted my book to be stocked, they wanted people in their stores, and how can we feed one another with this? And so
Yeah.
I would say, like, yeah, majority of my stops were Black bookstores, and so collaborating with them and seeing them the way that I wanted to be seen was really important, and
Yeah.
something that, again, One World had prioritized and built really great relationships with Black bookstores so that um it wasn't difficult to get into their doors, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I've heard even that process of doing it independently, organizing it,
Mhm.
bookstores answer their emails, Black
Yes,
bookstores
they
answer their
do.
phones, their
Yes, they
DMs, all
do.
of that, and they want that. They're like,
They
"Please
do.
make your stops here." Like, when you come to this city, don't overlook us
That's right.
trying to be on your famous tip, you
That's
know what I
right.
mean? So I think
That's
that was
right.
really important for me, was to just honor community, and then in so many of the communities that I went into, it was like, "Let me hit up my sorors. Let me hit
Yes.
up activist friends who I know are based in these cities, and tap into networks that I'm a part of and collectives and whatnot," and realizing, like, people will show up for you when you show up for them,
That's
and
right.
so it felt like for years I had been somewhat like, I felt like a behind the scenes person, like I'm supporting
Yeah.
someone else's vision, and now I had this vision, and I had to be comfortable saying like, "Can you show up for me?" And
Yeah.
so activist homes that I've been volunteering at since I was 19 were like, "We wanna organize a stop and we'll arrange it to do it," and, like, that was my launch event was organized by
Mm.
the Gathering for Justice. I've literally
I
been
love that.
volunteering there since I was a teenage college kid, angry in the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement,
Yes.
and they made it so beautiful and had poetry and Black artists performing
Mm.
there, and, like, just so many things that came together in ways that it's like, and it felt like community, and it felt great.
Yeah.
So I would just encourage, like, any Black authors especially, but, I mean, honestly, any, like,
Yes.
authors of color, women authors,
Absolutely.
queer authors, like, look to your community. You're a queer author. Where are the queer bookstores? And, like, build those bridges. I
That's right.
remember because the book was coming out the day before Juneteenth, but that's also Pride Month, and so I would make sure, like, listen, we had
That's
I
right.
wanna talk about the queer stories that I made
That's
sure to include. I
right.
wanna talk about the trans woman,
That's right.
Lucy Hicks Anderson, who I made sure to center, and I wanna talk
Yes.
like and this is something we can do that I might not have been able to do at a more traditional
Absolutely.
bookstore, mainstream bookstore that would have said, like, "Well, we wanna keep it general for a wide
Don't talk about
audience,"
these
like
things. Yeah.
exactly, like, no, we can go in and really center us, so, those were things that came up um and then again, like, One World was really good at as far as
Yeah.
media. I did
Yeah.
not end up booking, like, and paying for an outside publicist, which some
Yeah.
people do, and
Yeah.
I would definitely consider it in the future. At that point, it was just like, I don't really got the money for that.
Listen, they're
Gotta
expensive,
do
child.
research, and these
Yes.
publicists are expensive, and I was
Extremely.
like, "I just gotta see what they gonna do and hope that it is great." And they were really great at getting me, like, print, coverage and getting reviews by different spaces and getting blurbs from different people, and so it was
Yeah.
just really amazing, and I know if you do work with an outside publicist, it's even easier to get on, like,
Yeah.
broadcast TV and whatnot,
Yeah.
and maybe those things can still be in the cards, but like you said earlier, it was my mom calling up the Breakfast Club like, "How
Mama
come
was
they
not
don't have my
playing.
daughter
My
on?"
baby got a book and it's doing I listened to the whole
And I was like and then they actually brought me up within
Yes,
2
they
weeks, so
really
it was
did.
like, okay,
They
sometimes
did.
it's just like you gotta ask and receive, and that's
You
how,
have to
again,
right.
community shows up, so
That's right.
my mom been part of the street team,
Mm.
even still, she's like, "Brea, what have you called this person this week? 'Cause I told you to call them last week." I'm like, "Oh, please, I'm on deadline, I can't do it."
I
But
love
your
you.
community wants to see you win,
That's right.
especially when you're telling a story
That's
that
right.
feels authentic
And
and
honors
honest.
them.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, child, listen. Okay, so this is why this makes me so excited, right? Because I think that people sometimes think, "Oh, you go get a book, and you write this book, and you do this work, and then you sit down, and then the publisher does all this work, and then boom, the book's out in the world." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no." Like, the number of phone calls I made to Marcus Books last
Gosh,
year, I
yes.
mean, they probably sick of me now. I mean, I hit an email, I'll hit them back, "Hey, just checking, just bumping this up in your
Yeah,
inbox." And a lot of it is, and they will say on the phone, they'll say, "We don't usually have authors who contact us directly, especially not from the larger publishers." They're
yeah,
like, "Oh, we're very excited about you because clearly you sought us out."
yeah,
Right? A lot of these Black bookstores, women-owned bookstores, queer-owned bookstores, brown folk-owned bookstores
yeah,
are stores that people they come into town, they blow through, and they don't even make a stop or even
yeah.
acknowledge that these Black folks are actively working on literacy in our communities and
Yes.
actively working on access, right? And so
Important third spaces, yeah.
yes, it's such and I think for me, the reason why it was important for me to do that, because I actually told my publisher, I said, "Hey," and we're both on Penguin Random House, and
Yeah,
I told him, I said, "Hey, I'm not going to no white stores." Like, my whole tour will be, Black owned, and brown folks. I don't want to. And at first they were like, and I was like, "Listen, this is a Black story. This
right.
is about
Me
Black
too.
women, and I wanna be in my community. I don't really care what white people think about Black women." And so if they get it, that's great, right? But the first place I'm stopping is in communities of my people. And they said, "Cool." They're like, "Cool." And I think this is also part of you being able to speak up for yourself
Yes.
and defend your work. So I wanna hear, I guess, more from you about, on the tour, during the publishing process, were there times where you felt, that conflicted thing of it's like, "Oh, am I allowed to say this or should I," but
Yeah.
you did it anyway? Like, how did you navigate those situations?
Yeah, those feelings come up all the time, especially when you're a first time author and you feel like, they took a chance on me, they've
Yeah.
invested into me,
Yeah.
and I don't want to seem ungrateful.
Yes.
I don't want to seem like, oh, she don't know how this goes. Like, I don't want to ask a stupid question. And I don't want them to feel like, oh, we wouldn't want to work with her again. I don't want to
Right.
make things difficult. I felt really affirmed by other authors that I'd talked to who would
Yeah.
be like, mm-mm. I made them redesign my book cover 25 times. And I'm like, "Okay, okay, so you could do it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for
Yeah.
saying that." Or, "Yeah,
Mhm.
no, I." And so I was clear. I remember, and I felt the first time they gave um, a kind of, like, overview of which markets they wanted to go to. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is, like, a lot of stops. I feel really good about this. This makes me
Yeah.
excited." And then looking at, like, which cities were in the stops, and I was like, "I need to be in the South more."
That's right.
It's a book about the South,
About 7
and
Black
I
yes.
can't not go to the South.
No.
I was like, "Okay, so can I'm willing to trade out some of these northern cities for that." Like, if you're telling me it's a matter of we can only do X amount of
Yeah.
stops max, then I'll trade some of those out for some southern cities, but I
Yeah.
need to be in a Houston, I need to be
That's
in a
right.
Tulsa, I need to be in Austin, like, I need to be in these communities, and they responded pretty great to me saying that.
Yeah.
I think there were other points where I was just like, "Okay, I really wanna make sure that we are sending books to, like, these sorts of bookstagrammers and book influencers, that Black women, are getting these stories, that Black Southerners are getting the books for free, and it's not just,
Yeah.
people who are both not gonna connect to the story and also probably not gonna post about it anyway,
That's right, they're not.
because it's not their story." So,
Yeah.
I think those were a few things that I had really insisted upon and was just like, "This, is something that matters a lot to me,"
Yeah.
is to make sure that, like, we are going to great migration cities, both destinations, but also, like, stop o
Place of origin. That's
origin
right.
yeah, place of origins,
Yeah.
and they responded pretty well to me saying that. We're like, "Alright, let's revise and, like, come back to you with some," and I had even said too, like, "And if that's not something that y'all are willing to cover, I still want to do it.
That's
So let me
right.
just be clear, like, I need this to
I'm
happen whether
I'm gonna do
y'all
it.
need me to
Yeah.
cover it or not."
Yeah.
And to their credit, they were really great at being like, "No, no, no, we'll still cover that, and we'll just,
Yeah.
like, tweak some things and make it happen." So those were things, and then even beyond to the point that you made earlier, like, it's not just, oh, they come up with some plan and they implement it and poof, your book is out of the world and that's it. Like,
Yeah.
the original book tour was, about, like, 2 or 3 weeks of stops for me, which felt really great, a few breaks in between. But then you don't want the book to, like, die out then, and so it
Of
was
course
a
not.
lot of me reaching out to spaces and being like,
Yeah.
even just I'm just traveling there to see family, but I
Same.
noticed you
Mhm.
got a bookstore here.
Oh,
Can we do
hey.
something while I'm
Yeah.
I'm in the process of doing that right now. Like, "Hey, Imma be in North Carolina for a family reunion." You're
Yeah.
not that far from the family reunion site, like, what can we make happen in
That's
July?
right.
Like,
That's
I'm
right.
constantly doing that. If I'm traveling for anything, I'm seeing if there's somewhere that I can stop in, even if it's
Yes.
just let me stop in and sign some stuff, take some
Yes,
photos, and let people know that the book is being sold here,
that's right.
or an actual book talk, and let's make something happen.
That's right.
But it is constantly being, like, willing to put yourself out there and not accept no for an as the final answer.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes people be like, "Oh," the publisher's like, "Oh, yeah, we shared it with them, and, we haven't heard back." Like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna follow up.
That's
Let me
right.
let me see because I feel like this would be a perfect fit."
Yes.
And some of that manifests and some of it doesn't, but it's like you leave no
Yeah.
stone unturned.
Yeah.
And the more that you were leaning into community that has something to get out of a book like this, the
Yeah.
more that they give to it. And I've just gotten
Yeah.
so much from Black women and Black booksellers and Black, schools and
Yeah.
educators and people
Yeah.
who are like, "Yes, I want this book on my shelves." And I'm like, "Okay, great. Anything I can do to make that happen,
Yeah.
if you contact me directly, here's my number."
Yes, here's my email. Yes.
So,
That's
it's
I
like,
love it.
there
You
is
spitting right
no
now.
shame, no shame.
You are spitting. I love this because this is absolutely exactly how it went for me. Like, you are not listen, the number of times you might have to follow up with folks, and I think what I'm also hearing from this is that you want grace, but you also have to offer that grace, right?
Yeah,
So a lot of these Black bookstores, sometimes they have lower staffing. They're working through, flood damage or they've had
yeah,
intermittent closures or whatever, and they can't prioritize your email over their survival, right?
that's so
So it's
real,
like
that's so real.
there's been times where people said, "Oh, well, the person who schedules events no longer works here, but we're hiring someone." I'm like, "Okay, I'll hit you back in 3
Yeah.
months."
Yep,
Right?
yep, yep,
Like,
yep,
no love lost. Like, I don't have a problem with you. We good, right? And I think especially in a moment like this, when literacy is literally under attack, these
yeah,
bookstores are not being supported. We've seen bookstores that have had to close because people were racist and harming, bookstore owners. Because
yeah,
how are you mad at somebody for wanting to read books?
right.
What a weird problem to have, right? And so I think you're absolutely right about, some stuff might not materialize, but you have to think, hey, listen, we're all out here trying to survive. We're all
Yeah.
out here struggling. We're all out here doing our very best. And you have to assume the best about folks.
1 mil yeah, that's big, is assuming the best for sure, and
Yeah,
trusting that things will happen in the right timing that
that's
it's
right.
supposed to happen in.
That's
So, for
right.
example, Reparations Club in Los Angeles. I've been
Yes.
trying to do an event with them for so long, and
I
we
love
haven't made
that.
it happen, but
Yeah.
they did choose Rooted for, like, one of the books that they're reading for the month
Yes.
month, and so it was, like, on their homepage, and so I'm like,
Yes.
that meant the world to me, like, even though
Yeah.
we haven't been able to make something happen in person, like,
Yeah.
we are still finding ways to show up for one another. I'll post a
Yes.
book with a direct link to their bookshop, like, okay, buy it virtually from them, even if you can't get it in
Yes.
person, and so we just have to be in community, and
Yes.
community is not just give me, give me, give me,
That's right.
and my book tour is done, and now I forget you exist. Like, I
That's
stay
right.
in community. A lot of the bookstores that I collaborated with for my book tour have since followed up and been like, "Hey, we're doing a book event for a different author. Would you
Same.
moderate the conversation?" And
Same.
because I know what it was like trying to chase down people to moderate for me, which is another
Absolutely.
thing that people don't talk about. So, like, just to make that clear. So my publisher did all of the work or like most of the work to identify booksellers and bookstores that we would collaborate with and to kind of put together the tour. But finding book conversation partners was
Yeah.
all on me to
Yes.
do. And so if
Yes.
I didn't know someone in that city, it was like, girl,
Yeah.
will you fly can I fly you to this city so we can
Yes.
have a conversation? And
Yeah.
if you were already in that city, I'm coming with a bottle of something
That's
so
right.
that, like, can I take you out to dinner after? Can I give you a gift
Yeah.
card? Like, just, like, showing up and loving up on people because they're
Yes.
taking time out of their day to help facilitate a beautiful conversation around something that you've worked so hard on,
Right.
and they should get something out of it too, and so I just tried to make sure that bookstores that I collaborated with felt like it was something that worked out for them as well. That
Absolutely.
we are staying in community, that it's not like I just dropped you and forgot you and don't bring me up again until I have another book coming out. Like,
Yeah.
no, if you need something and I can be a part of it, absolutely call me, tap me in. If I see that you're doing a GoFundMe fundraiser, I'm now buying my
I'm
books from
sharing
you
that.
and
That's
I'm
right.
donating to
That's right.
because that happens to our books.
It
Octavia's
does.
bookstore in like ultimately
Yes.
we just gotta keep showing up for each other, remembering, like, we are
Yeah.
all on the same side and receiving end of this white supremacist attack on these sorts of stories, and, again, the more that we want our books to be in shelves, like, the shelves gotta be there for our
That's
books to be
right.
in shelves.
That's right, that's right. So, okay, so then thinking about all of that, this sounds, I mean, incredible. I've watched your journey, so I've been like, "Ooh, you out here
Thank
doing it, good
you.
job." And I just, like, I know it's really not substantial, but I love the cover. I think the cover is so distinctive. Like, I see this and I immediately know it's your book. Like, I immediately know, and I think y'all did a, I mean, I don't know who responsible, but it's beautiful. It's
Yes,
stunning, and it's very Black. So anyway,
yes.
didn't want to say that to you directly.
Thank you for that. I appreciate you saying that. And they do have like a art designer or art
Yeah,
director, whatever the title is,
yeah,
on hand at One World who is doing it. And they came up with a bunch of mock-ups and I was like, I love all of these. And I was torn
yes,
between like a few. I think the only like I made a few slight tweaks, like it was gonna be a more of a lime green. And I was like, let's make it look more close to what a plant's
earth.
color might be in
Yeah,
earthy, because I
yeah,
do want it to feel like something that's actually coming up out of the ground.
yeah,
And then I definitely wanted a Black woman to be like,
yes,
it's not just Black men working
prominently.
them fields, it's Black women, and so those were just things that I was like, "Oh, I really wanna accentuate those," but, I mean, it was such a great draft already that I was like, "Yes,
Yes.
yes, I'm loving this." And I started with, they had asked me for, like, a mood board, and so I remember
Yeah,
putting together a mood board of different things that can,
yeah,
and I'm like, the way that they took that mood board and made this, it was just,
yeah,
like, such a perfect translation of things in my head that I didn't even know to visually put together.
yeah.
I'm a words girl. I'm not a artist. I can make a little something shake on Canva,
Same,
that's about it.
same.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm real meager in that
Yeah.
area. So if there's one thing, you think back the whole process, thing all the way back to, like, in 2019 when you were conceiving of the book, if there's one thing you could change
Ooh.
and do differently or have happen differently, what would it be?
Ooh, I feel like I'm gonna be thinking about this deep, 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 like, in the
Yeah.
shower later. One thing that I could change.
Oh,
In the spirit of grace, I think remembering that if you are someone who doesn't pay for outside publicist services, the
yeah,
publicist working on your book is working on a bunch of other books also for you.
yeah, yeah.
And so having grace for them, but also realizing earlier on that it is a partnership, that you are also your publicist and your marketer.
That's right. Yeah.
Because, for example, they send out the official publisher email of blurb of this book and why you should support
Mhm,
it and
mhm, mhm.
can we get, but it's such a formal, dense email.
It is.
And there were some things that didn't happen in the initial timeline that I was like, I should have just texted that person. I
Yeah,
should have just picked up the phone and called them.
yeah,
I was in my world of let the publicist handle it, let the team
yeah.
handle it, when it's like, if I had that direct relationship, like, make certain things happen, and like you said, call people up, buy the
That's right.
rum,
That's right.
be the person that they're like, "Oh my god, here Bree go again," but, like, so that it's not forgotten because it's
Yeah,
easy for things to fall through the cracks, and
yeah,
in the spirit of grace, and I didn't think anything was ever intentionally done in that way, which for
yeah.
some people, it's you feel like, "Oh, they're dropping the ball on purpose because they don't want
Mm,
this work." I
mm.
believed that the team believed in the work. I also
Yeah,
believed that they were juggling a lot,
yeah.
and the sooner you realize that you are the writer, the co-editor, the
Yes, you are.
co-publicist,
You are.
you're all of those things.
Yes, you are.
The sooner you realize that, the sooner that you can invest in those things, and so I did get that eventually and was like,
Yeah,
"Okay, that person didn't respond to you. Oh, I should have just been the one reaching out,
yeah,
they'll respond to me, and so
yeah.
but now it's like, okay, well, now I have the paperback
Now
release
you
to look
know.
forward to, and now I know, and I
Yeah,
can make certain things happen then that weren't able to happen in the right timing for the hardcover release.
yeah.
Those are things that I think, especially when you go the traditional route, sometimes you want to just fall asleep at the wheel. You
That's
want to
right.
be a passenger, and it's like, "No, no, no, you are a driver, and you have to be awake at all times and,
That's
like,
right.
make things happen for your book baby,
That's right.
that you want to happen. Unless you are the big
Listen,
time person, in
yeah,
which case, yeah, they're gonna have you at
yeah.
Carnegie Hall.
So we'll
But
ever do nothing now,
but if
child.
you're not that, like, you have to really, like, tap into every resource at your
Yeah,
disposal and make sure that if you want something done, that it gets done, and that if they did the first reach out, you're doing the second and third.
that's right. That's right. I love that. And okay, so well, I mean, here's the thing. There are people listening to this who are They wanna be Brea Baker one day, right? They wanna be Republic Beloved too, right? So, if there's, anything left that you wanna leave here for, viewers and listeners that you're like, can help them along the journey, what is it? What do you wanna share with folks who are watching and listening?
It sounds so cliche, because I think a lot of people talk like, if you write, then you're a writer. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes you wait until you are backed by a Penguin Random House
Yeah.
and whatnot to consider yourself a writer. But before I had a book out, before I had a book deal, before any
Yeah.
of that, one
Yeah.
of the things that caught someone's attention and made them say, "You should have a literary agent," was my long captions on Instagram. And I would write these long ass captions about things that I tried to pitch it to someone and no one would accept it, and I was like, "Well, I just gotta get this off my chest," and so sometimes it would just be a thread or a caption about whatever thing, and that would, like, catch even if it just catches the right persons, like, I remember thinking, like, "Maybe I should delete this post, it didn't get the engagement that I was looking for."
Yeah.
It's going to reach who it's going to reach, and
Yeah.
your job is just to put it out and not worry about the audience, and again, it sounds so cliche, and so that's easy for you to say, but it's things that I wish I had, like, been able to affirm younger me on. It was just like, stay the course because
Yeah.
it took years of long captions to turn into, "Could you write this article for us?" And
Mm,
then it took years of articles to, "You should be a ghostwriter." And then it was
mm,
years of ghostwriting to be, "You should write under your own name."
mm.
Journey will happen in different paths. Some people go straight to the writing under their own name. Some people go straight to the book deal. They don't, but like, don't be afraid of doing it in the informal way. If you've got a
Yes.
Substack, a Medium, a blog, just whatever it is that you have,
Yeah.
put your writing out there
That's right.
and allow someone to see it and say, "I could see more from this person. I
That's
actually
right.
want more from this person." And
That's
if
right.
I had decided, "Well, I'm gonna save everything for the book," I might not have a book
That's
to be
right.
out
That's
because
right.
no one would have had a proof of life concept. So,
That's
I think
right.
it was really important for me to, get out of my own way, and since then, I'm like, "I don't care if this gets 3 likes. If I enjoyed what I wrote and
Yeah.
wanted it to be out in the world, it's gonna
Yeah.
be out there." And
Yeah.
if no one resonates with it but that one person who sees it while skimming, who happens to be on that hashtag, who whatever, then
Yeah.
that's enough. But, like, don't feel like, okay, you need the platform because when I got a literary agent, I did not have the platform that I have now. And again, I was a ghostwriter at that time, but still, like, you don't need tens of thousands of followers, to get book deals or to be seen as a valid writer and just, like, stay the course
Mm.
and write and know that the right person will find that writing.
I think it's because 'cause you're a Gemini, but
What's your
y'all
sign?
I'm a Virgo.
Oh, I love a Virgo.
I know,
Next
we
up a
love we
Virgo,
love
my
each
mom's a
other.
Virgo. I
Here's
love
the
it.
thing, I just feel like you spitting, like, what you saying is so right. I'm like, "That's exactly it." Like, proof of concept, like, that's exactly how I found my agent. I was writing at Teen
Yes.
Vogue, and she had been reading Teen Vogue, and she was like, "I love your writing, and it should be a book." And I did not think it was a book until she said it to me. You are spot on that this is
Yeah.
how it happens for so many of us.
Yes,
So I
1,000,000, yeah.
just I appreciate you for being so honest and transparent about your process and also for keeping with it, for you staying the course, right? Like you saying that your book launch event was at a location that you had been volunteering at since you were 19 and then they get to sit there and hold this book in their hand. Like those kind of things to me they're so meaningful, right? There are a lot of people who write books because they wanna be famous or, because 'cause they're white. I don't know. Um,
Yes.
but those of us who are writing about the people we love, the cities, the land that we love,
Yes.
the communities that we are still a part of, I
Yeah.
think when I hear you talk, I'm like, "Oh, we we're here.
Yes.
That's exactly how we should be doing this work, and so I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for this book. I will be assigning it in my courses. I love this book. I love this book, and
Thank you.
I'm just grateful that you're here, and we published, beloved. We did it.
We published, beloved. And thank you. I said this off camera, but again, thank you so much
Yeah.
for curating a space like this because I
Yeah.
think a younger Bria would have
Yeah.
needed to listen to a podcast like this. And I'm glad that I saved the course anyway, but I'm also
Yeah.
really glad that this exists now
Yeah.
for those people who are saying, I want to be a Dr. Jen, I want to be a Bria, I want to be a this, because it matters so deeply.
It
And
does.
Just you just make so many people feel seen, and this is how we get more writers who look
That's
like
exactly
us,
it.
more Black writers, more non-binary writers, more trans
That's
writers, more queer
right.
writers. So thank you for making space for us. It doesn't go unnoticed.
Of course, 'cause I love us so much. I do. I do.